So in the first place, we have to understand that infrastructure, it's not only an enabler for social development, but for economic development as well. So people and societies, they rely on those different infrastructure, being water and sanitation, transport, hospitals and schools, to actually perform its daily activities, not only for social development, but also actually to achieve its means for incomes. And why do we need actually to ensure that we're going to be we adding resilient aspect in those infrastructure? Is because most of the time that infrastructure is built to last. From engineering perspective, we're talking about 50 or even more years once we build like a particular building or a road. And with exposure more and more to natural and climate risks that we have across the globe, it is important for us to make good use of those investments. So as an example, let's assume that the person uses like a glass cup to transport water from one place and deliver that water, and that's his means of income. So every time he goes back home at night, he places the cup of water just by the edge of a table. If somebody accidentally just hit the glass and it falls on the ground and it breaks, we can assume that's a particular disaster. And that's when the infrastructure is not that resilient. We at the World Bank work with these countries to understand how we can better design, use different materials, and even institutional arrangements to ensure that that event does not repeat, or if it repeats, that particular infrastructure would be more resilient. So it can come with a design of a plastic cup, for instance, that would survive a fall to the ground. And that's our role at the World Bank with our client countries. Back in 2017, we have put together a flagship report that was launched at the COP23, in which we try to understand institutionally how the World Bank has been working with small island development states, particularly because they are extremely exposed to natural and climate hazards across the globe. So we have found that our institution has done a lot, but was necessary for us to further invest in a particular framework in which resilient transport would be one of the goals for our institution. With that in mind, the GFDR, the Global Facility for Disaster Reduction, along with the Japanese government through the World Bank, Japan World Bank program, has been promoting a global technical assistance in which we're tackling 4 countries across the globe to better understand our challenges as a development institution. For instance, in the Caribbean, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, right now, challenged by the pandemic, we have been always able to develop different kinds of tools for capacity building. So the country, through virtual training, can be better placed to collect and use data on road assets. In the Pacific, in Solomon Islands and Vanuatu, we have been working together with those countries to understand the institutional arrangement and also how can they collect this data, like in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and use for the future of developing better and improved road asset management systems. Finally, in Cabo Verde, Africa, we have been working with the country, which is a cluster of different islands sitting in the mid of the Atlantic, to understand from a logistics perspective how they can be better coping with natural and climate risks by understanding supply chain through maritime and air transportation, as well as modeling different kinds of disaster events that leads to scenario simulation for us to understand the impacts on particular airports, ports, as well as roads. We're wrapping up this study by having a game simulation in which authorities are challenged to perform decision-making in investment on different kinds of infrastructure, transport infrastructures in the country, so they can be better presented and better capable of leading, of managing those impacts in the future. With that in mind, right now, the World Bank Group is better capable of delivering different services for not only the small island development states, but different countries across the globe for us to tackle this very important issue, which is resilient transport infrastructure for the aim of reducing poverty and sharing prosperity.